Anthony Richardson, despite helping the Colts get the win over Chicago, he is really struggling right now. In only 3 games, he's thrown 6 interceptions. He's completing under 50% of his passes. And I'm not an Anthony Richardson hater. As a matter of fact, I was a huge defender of his a few months ago. I thought that he was getting too much hate. But over the course of the offseason, the hype train started to build up. You got people comparing him to Cam Newton, thinking that he could have an MVP season like what Cam had in 2015. And the thing that people have to understand with Anthony Richardson is that he hasn't played a lot of football. He's only played 8 games as a starting quarterback in the NFL. He didn't really play that much in college neither. So you got somebody that still is learning what it takes to be a consistent quarterback in the NFL. His accuracy is all over the place. He throws the deep ball more accurately than he throws anything else. And the problem that Indianapolis has right now is that you have a guy in Anthony Richardson that can't hit the layups. He can't hit guys when they're open 5-10 yards down the field. And with him not having a lot of experience under his belt, he's going to be hot and cold this year. You're going to have games like what you saw week 1 against Houston when he threw 2 touchdowns. He kept you in that game. And you're going to have games like you've seen the last 2 weeks, such as what we saw against the Chicago Bears on Sunday, where he just completely falls apart. He implodes and he just throws interceptions all over the place because he still is very raw when it comes to understanding defenses. And, you know, he just throws the football with too much oomph on it, if that makes sense. You know, there will be a guy that's open 7 yards downfield. All he needs to do is just put a little bit of touch on the ball, but instead he's just zipping it. Guys have the ball flying through their hands. It's no wonder why he has so many interceptions, because he doesn't make it easy for the receivers to catch the football. And just watching him play quarterback looks a little bit unnatural. And Anthony Richardson is going to be a roller coaster ride this year. There's going to be games that you win in spite of Anthony Richardson because of how good your run game is and if your defense can show up. But you're going to have games when Anthony Richardson just completely implodes and your defense isn't able to bail him out. But he will have some games when he ends up being on fire, like what we saw week 1 against Houston. But there's no reason to panic on Anthony Richardson. He does need to be benched, because benching Anthony Richardson, all it does is halt his development. He's only going to get better with more in-game experience. You don't do anything for AR by just keeping him on the bench, because with his athleticism, he can keep you in games. And although he's really inaccurate, he'll make a couple of big throws, probably 2 or 3 throughout the game, that will result in big plays, possibly touchdowns that can keep you in ball games. But Anthony Richardson right now, he hasn't been that good. But I believe if you're a Colts fan, you got to temper your expectations for this team. This was never going to be a playoff caliber football team due to how young Anthony Richardson is. And Anthony Richardson, I can see him playing at an MVP level next year in 2025. But 2024 for him is still a rookie season, because his first season last year got cut short due to an injury. And I think that the reason why they're not running him as much as what they did last year is because despite how big he is, he's 6'5", 255 pounds, he doesn't know how to run without injuring himself. He doesn't know how to slide. He takes too many big hits when he's running with the ball. And it kind of takes away what Indianapolis could be offensively. Because ideally, if AR can put it all together, he could be the second coming of Cam Newton, but more athletic. But right now, it's going to be tough for Indianapolis over these next couple of weeks. Next week, you got to play the Steelers, who have arguably the best defense in the NFL. And, you know, you're just going to have a roller coaster ride when it comes to the Anthony Richardson experience, because he is still fairly young. But you got to let him go through these growing pains so he can learn from them and improve. But even if he can put it all together, I never seen him coming out of Florida as being a guy who is going to always complete over 60% of his passes. And Cam Newton, for the majority of his career, he was never the most accurate guy. There probably was only one season throughout Cam Newton's years in the league where he actually was completing over 60% of his passes. So Anthony Richardson isn't going to be a really accurate quarterback. The most he will be is probably be a 60, 61% guy, but the big playability for him is why Indianapolis is going to have a chance to win a few games this year. But just with how inaccurate he is, he just doesn't look comfortable from within the pocket. You know, he makes easy throws harder than what they should be. You're going to probably end up being a 7-6 win team this year because the quarterback play from him is not going to be consistent enough for you to have a winning season. And even though Shane Steichen is a really good offensive coordinator, he has a really good track record of developing quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson coming out, everybody knew this dude was a project. If he would have played more games last season, he probably would have been better this year. But this year really is an extension of his rookie season. But maybe you could see him turn around late during the season when we get to late November, early December. But right now, you know, I don't really see too many things changing with Anthony Richardson. He's just going to be a roller coaster ride. He's going to have some good games. He's going to have some bad games. But hopefully, when he does have those games, when he kind of implodes like how he did against Chicago, your defense can bail you out. And Jonathan Taylor can be effective like what he was today on the ground for you. But moving forward, you got to keep sticking with Anthony Richardson. There's no reason to bench this dude. Indianapolis already knew what it was when they decided to draft him 3rd overall. They knew he was going to be a project. They knew that it wasn't going to just be one of those overnight things when you stick him into a system and he just automatically plays at a high level. It's going to be growing pains. People got to be patient with these young quarterbacks, man. This is why Tom Brady said some of these guys shouldn't be playing. Anthony Richardson was supposed to be the backup to Gardner Minshew, but they started him because they thought they could win with his athleticism. But the problem is you can't rely on his athleticism as much as you thought you could because of how injury prone he tends to be when he runs the football too much. But AR, I think he's going to get better. I think he'll put it all together a little bit later on during the season, but I don't really see him being super consistent this year.